Hello and welcome to College to Consulting. Today I'm going to go over how to solve the many types of frameworks and what you should really be looking at and the core of the framework essentially. So let's just get into it. A lot of my students say that there are just so many types of frameworks that how do you even prepare for all of them? And there are human capital cases and market sizing and merger acquisition, profit improvement, cost cutting, new product development, marketing, competitive response, investment opportunities. There's so many to deal with. But every business case comes down to just a very finite and core set of principles that you need to look at. And this is the core. They all focus around growth, profitability, and efficiency. And this is pertinent to any industry and any service that is being asked for in the case. Okay? Growth, profitability, and efficiency. Let's do a couple examples and I'll show you how this turns out in play. Let's say this is the case we get. Which geographic area should J.Crew expand to? For those who aren't familiar with J.Crew, J.Crew is just a fashion retailer of clothes, and you can go to one of their stores in a mall probably and just buy some hip clothes. Okay, so let's say we get this case. Which geographic area should J.Crew expand to? First, what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw out my sheet of paper and I'm going to label it as framework. And I want you to actually draw this out and write framework at the top of your sheet of paper. Now, if you remember from the previous video, I said there were two parts to every case. There was the macro and the micro level part. We're going to do this now with looking at how does this play with growth, efficiency, and profitability. All right. So first what I want to look at is I want to look at the market. With the market I want to know what's the product like, what's competition, for instance Gap, Banana Republic, well those are the same company actually, some other types of fashion outlets. What is the market size, and what's the market share of J.Crew? Now this again is the macro level piece, and this is just getting an understanding of the total environment. Okay. Next, I want to look at essentially this whole case is around growth and profitability. We know that the reason why J.Crew wants to expand into a geographic region is to make more money, and it needs to actually be profitable for them. So I'm going to look at revenue. With revenue, I want to look at what is the potential revenue from entering several areas that you may be considering, such as India, China, Brazil, Russia. Do we have to make custom products for those geographic areas? For instance, McDonald's has custom products depending on where the McDonald's is open. In the Middle East, it has, I think, falafel type of food. In America, not so much. All right. What is the revenue by country? Where can we potentially gain the best from the different options that are being assessed? Now I want to look at costs. With costs, I want to know what are the fixed costs, what are the variable costs, what are any barriers to entry. Barriers to entry could be things like embargo, or could be other just legal factors, or even cultural factors that might come into play. And what is the total cost by country? Now, because this is essentially profitability, I have an understanding of which countries would be the most profitable to enter. But we're not done yet. Remember, we're looking at growth, profitability, and efficiency. So there's another component I need to look at, which is operations. How are we going to even pull this thing off if we decide to enter into a new country? With that, I want to look at who are suppliers. Can we even get supplies to this place? How does this work? Is this efficient? Capital, do we need new factories, machinery, stuff like that? Logistics, how does this work within the country? You might be assuming that it's very similar to America, but let's say that it only runs on, you're in a country that is an island. Probably trains are not going to be the best route of transportation. Instead, it's going to have to be by boat. but these are just factors that you need to look at and consider. And then culture. If, for instance, if we decide to go to Brazil, what is the culture there that would allow us to work efficiently within that country? Do we need people that speak Portuguese? So anyway, this is a general framework of how we would answer this question of which geographic area should J.Crew expand to. We're looking at the macro level first, which is the market, the micro level, which is J.Crew, and then within that, we looked at growth, profitability, and efficiency. Growth in terms of obviously trying to expand into a country. Profitability, revenue, and cost. We looked at which countries are the most profitable, revenue by country, total cost by country. And we looked at efficiency. How do we even do it? Operations, what are the components that we need to address? Okay, let's do another one. Let's do a little bit different one. Let's say we get this case. How can the city of Chicago gain more revenue? Not really a company anymore. So we have to look at this slightly differently, but there are still the components that I want to address. We're going to first look at macro and micro levels, and going to look at the components of the framework, or the core of a framework, which is growth, profitability, and efficiency. Okay, let's do this one together. First, I have my sheet of paper, and I'm going to label it as framework at the top. How can the city of Chicago gain more revenue? Now we know this is purely a revenue case. I don't really have to be concerned with cost right now. So I just need to know, how can we grow? Just like I said in the core of a framework, how can we grow? All right. First, I'm going to look at the market. The market, I want to know, what is the industry like in terms of other cities that are looking to gain revenue, like New York and Philadelphia, LA, San Francisco, etc. What are the cities doing, as I mentioned? What is the market size? Market size, now I know this is city, but the market size is still, let's say you have federal funds or state funds. How does that go to other cities versus city of Chicago? And that is the market share, essentially. How much of that total funding from Illinois does Chicago get? Okay, so now we have an understanding of the lay of the land, the high-level view. Next, this is only a revenue case, so we only need to look at revenue. With revenue, I want to know, what are the different revenue streams from Chicago in terms of taxes as well as fines and other services that the city provides? What are the profit margins on those different revenue streams? For instance, taxes might be the most, have the highest profit margin, or it could be some other component that we're not even considering. But again, I'm looking at how do we grow and as a part of the core of a case. And how has that revenue changed year over year? Next, because it just is about revenue, I want to look at volume. And with volume, I want to know what is the current marketing like for Chicago in order to use its services. What are some new markets we can enter? Not necessarily meaning new markets geographically, but new markets like demographics in terms of maybe the elderly population or the younger population or an affluent population or a different population. But how can we get them more involved in order to gain more revenue from them? And can we bundle certain products, such as bundling mail delivery with other logistical components, or even having areas to help with small business for a city with postage, stuff like that. How can we do this to make more revenue for the customer, which is the residents and business owners in Chicago? And then how can we cross-sell? Cross-selling is essentially selling one product to a same group, a same subset of a population. For instance, I always think when you look at Amazon, they say you might also be interested in this. That's an example of cross-selling. So now, if we can, Chicago can do a very good job of marketing and selling one product, can they cross-sell another product that they may be good at? Such as, we talked about having the postal service. Maybe they can also cross-sell having documents shipped to you for very cheap for small business. And last are what are their capabilities. Now, capabilities is what else can they do? What else can the city of Chicago do that it has the capabilities to do? It's a big city with a huge lake that it touches and huge transportation by train and other logistical areas. How can it use that to gain more revenue? So again, this framework looked at the macro level, which is the market, and the micro level, specifically revenue and volume for Chicago. But it was always focused around, in this instance, growth. When you look at growth, profitability, efficiency, mainly growth. And we looked at revenue streams and different volume streams in order to improve that growth. Okay? So, for additional material, check out an introduction to frameworks, as well as how to dissect any type of framework and to come up with one. All right, that's it for the framework series. Be sure to check out any of the additional homework that we have, and check any of the videos if you need any extra guidance. All right, thank you very much.